Good morning. My name is Sarah, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to today's call titled 5 Steps for Engaging and Maintaining Strong Partnerships. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, please press the pound key. I would now like to turn the call over to Ms. Amanda Hopping-Wynn. You may begin your conference.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello, I'm Amanda Hopping-Wynn, Project Analyst here at the National Abandoned Infants Assistance Resource Center located at UC Berkeley. Funded by Health and Human Services Children's Bureau, our mission here at AIA is to enhance the quality of social and health services delivered to children and families affected by substance abuse and/or HIV by providing quality training, information, and resources to the professionals who work directly with these families. On behalf of the Resource Center, I'd like to welcome you all to today's teleconference with Katy White, entitled 5 Steps for Engaging and Maintaining Strong Partnerships. Katy works for Dare Mighty Things, a veteran-owned small business offering management consulting services for large-scale programs that affect vulnerable populations. She consults with programs serving at-risk and high-risk youth across the country. Katy has supported the creation of statewide mentoring coalitions, managed communities of practice, and provided technical assistance services to dozens of youth programs. She has done extensive benchmarking and training on developing strong partnerships and coalitions, especially for social service agencies. Katy received her master's degree in social work from Monmouth University and her Bachelor of Arts in Social Work with a minor in Spanish from Christopher Newport University. She has years of experience in both national and international community service, having participated in and led programs in Honduras, Costa Rica, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. Katy, thank you so much for being with us today. And before we get started, I just wanted to let participants know that in addition to being able to call in with your questions at a few points during this presentation, you can also chat your questions to me, Amanda Hopping-Wynn, in that little chat box in the lower right corner of your screen. If you just find my name in the Send To, Amanda Hopping-Wynn, you can send those questions to me at any point during the presentation. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to you, Katy.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. And thank you for the introduction. As Amanda was saying, I am actually based out in Washington, D.C., and we do a lot of work supporting nonprofits as they grow their capacity to serve vulnerable populations. And in our work, we've come to find that what happens to be the most effective way to do that is really through partnerships. So that's what we're going to spend the majority of our time talking about today, is how to engage and to maintain those strong partnerships that will benefit the families that you serve. So a little bit of the plan for today and kind of where we're going to go. For the most part, I'm assuming that you all are coming into this call and you've got some ideas about people that you think or organizations that could be good partners for the work that you do in the organizations that you do. So you've identified them, maybe you've even been introduced to them once or twice, and so now the question is, now what do you do with them? So we're going to spend some time walking through how to prepare for those kinds of meetings, how to do your research and really get to know the background and understand your partners and your potential partners. We'll also talk about the concept of creating a menu of options, giving different ways for partners to get engaged with your organization. Then we'll spend some time talking about how to maximize that initial meeting and really make sure that you get that partnership off on the right foot. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about agreeing on an MOU and kind of when to use an MOU and why and how that functions. And then we'll wrap up today talking about what can be one of the most challenging parts, which is really keeping the partners engaged once you've got them on your side. So in terms of what we'd like for you to be able to take away from this webinar, you should be able to walk away being able to identify the gaps that partners can help you address in your own organization. You should also be able to identify areas of alignment with potential partners in the work that you're doing. We'd hope that you'd be able to create your own menu of options to engage partners. And finally, to be able to deploy multiple strategies for sustaining partnerships. So with that, we're going to get started with a little bit of feedback from you all. And Amanda's going to launch a poll for us. It's going to pop up on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll let you vote. But I wanted to get a sense from you about who in the room has faced challenges when it comes to building partnerships, and what have those challenges been? Has it been gaining momentum with new partnerships? Kind of how do you get it started and get it going and get that energy? Perhaps it's in finalizing the MOU, really getting it down on paper what each party is going to do. Or is it the follow-through on commitments with partners that you get really excited and you've got the momentum, but either you've overcommitted or sometimes the follow-through and handing off of responsibilities can be a challenge. For others, it may be staying engaged for over a year, keeping those partners active and committed beyond maybe the first activity that you do together. And then the third option being, the final option being getting what you need from your partners. So making sure that it's a two-way street kind of partnership, that you're not being taken advantage of, and that it's clear what the expectations are. So the poll is open and you can vote. I think that it's said that you can only select one of them. So as you look through this list, think about the one that you have faced most often. So you can just take a minute to vote and then click the submit button.
And Katy, we did also add an all of the above and a none of the above, so you might see those results coming in as well.
Fantastic, thanks. Amanda, I'm actually going to ask for you to, if you can read me the results. I'm having trouble seeing them. But if you could just share a little bit about what people are saying.
Polls will be... Ellen is currently closing the poll, and then she will pass you control so you can see those results.
Fantastic. Great. Well, thank you guys for participating. It looks like we've got a pretty good mix. A lot of you have expressed challenges in those first steps, that gaining momentum for new partnerships, and then others of you in the staying engaged, which is great because we're really going to focus on those two areas today. So we'll go ahead and jump in. And so kind of following off of that, we're going to take the first opportunity for some discussion. And I'd love for you, if you want to unmute your lines or share with us, what are at the root of some of these challenges? So for those of you that have expressed challenges gaining momentum, kind of what's been behind that? Has it been finding the partners or making sure that they're the right fit? For those of you who've had challenges staying engaged or getting what you need out of partners, is it a challenge of communication, or kind of what's going on? So we take a few minutes to hear from some of you.
And Sarah, we'd like to open the phone line so people can call in with their common challenges. And at the same time, if you would like to chat your challenge in, you can do that as well. You can find the little chat box. It might have gotten minimized in the poll, and just click on that and then chat your challenge into Amanda Hopping-Wynn.
And at this time, I would like to remind everyone, if you would like to ask a question by the phone, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad.
Katy, can you speak to some of the common challenges that you hear about?
Absolutely. Well, I think a lot of times what we see are challenges with programs finding the right partners, and that can be behind getting momentum. If you're finding someone and they're not quite the right fit, then getting that excitement and getting that engagement early on is going to take a lot more work, because you're going to have to spend a lot more time bringing that partner up to speed about the importance of the work that you're doing, or why you do the work the way that you do. And it can kind of drain some of that initial energy, whereas when you've got that right partner that already buys into the vision and really gets it, they come on board and they're ready to get started and get going. So we see that a lot. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how to do your research to make sure that before you even sit down at that first meeting, you've got that right partner who's going to jump in and be ready to go with you. And in terms of staying engaged, most of the time, we talk about partnerships, but really at the end of the day, what we're talking about are relationships. that we're working with people. And so it's about building those relationships. And the key to a good relationship is communication. And so it's the same for a good partnership. It's making sure that there's a regular communication and that it's from both parties, so that your partner feels just as comfortable calling you if they've got a concern as you do to them. So I see actually a question coming in. Is there a value in doing a SWOT analysis? Absolutely. I'm a big fan of kind of taking in a broad picture and seeing what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses and what are your opportunities or your advantages and your threats. And that's one of the things that we encourage you to do internally first as well as outside in your community. And so why don't we go ahead and jump into that, and we'll start talking about doing some of that research and analyzing your situation.
Before you move forward, I just want to make sure that we don't have any questions that are waiting on the line or comments.
Sure.
There are no questions on the phone.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Katie. Sorry.
That's no problem. So one of the first steps is doing your research and figuring out what it is that you need. And you want to do this before you even set up that first meeting with your potential partner, because you want to know what you want going in. So think about, is what you need financial support? Do you need money to get things going and running? And that's going to determine what kind of partners you're going to go to. Are you looking for direct services? Are you looking for a partner that maybe can offer a referral source for you, for your families? Or maybe you work in substance abuse and your families could really use some help with finding jobs. So you're looking at partners who can help them develop those kind of resources. Another thing you might need just volunteers, whether it's a volunteer to come in and answer the phones once a week, or it's a volunteer to help you with an event. Know what you need and know which partners can offer that. And finally, maybe you just need space. You've got some group meetings going on, and you need somewhere for those meetings to take place. These are all things that you can work out with a partner, and you can identify different types of partners to meet these. But the other thing that you want to know is, what does that partner have to offer? And different partners are going to bring different things to the table. So make sure that you're clear on what this partner does as well as what they can offer. And we're going to talk a little bit more shortly about how to go about doing that. And then the final question, which is probably the most crucial question, is what does the partner need? Having some idea of this answer before the meeting can help you prepare and make an even stronger impression on your partner. Because as I said before, in a relationship, it's not just one person. It is not just you coming to the partner and saying, this is what we need. It's what do they need, and how can you help them achieve their goals? So one way to do this is to do your research. And so we actually, you should have received an email I think yesterday, that had this partnership gap analysis template in it. And basically what we've done is kind of started to create a template of potential needs that you and your organization may have. And it is certainly not comprehensive, and we would encourage you to fill it in and expand it on your own. But it gives you an opportunity to take some time and figure out what you're looking for in a partner. And it may be something that you do with others in your organization to make sure that you have buy-in internally before you start to go out and look for partners. But it's really important to have a clear picture of your needs, and whether it's through doing an analysis like this or it's doing a SWOT analysis, you want to be able to really clearly articulate your needs so that you can then articulate those to your potential partners. And as you start to look at your partners and find out, who you want to partner with, there are a couple of key components. One of them is to look at your partner's values. Do they share the same values that you do? Are they committed to the same kind of work? Because, again, that's that part of, if they're not already there, it's going to take a lot more time and effort to bring them up to speed than it is a partner who's already sharing some common values. You also want to look at what additional connections you may have. Are there any volunteers or staff or board members that are connected to this partner that can maybe offer you an introduction? Because you want a relationship with the key decision makers at the partner's organization, but it makes it even that more impactful if you've got an internal advocate within your partner's organization who can speak on your behalf and really encourage that partnership from the inside. you also want to look at the culture of the organization. Are they an organization that's committed to giving back and being a part of the community? Are they an organization that really believes in partnerships? A lot of the work that I have done has been in the youth serving field and especially with mentoring. And what we find sometimes is that when you're going to build partnerships, there may be some partners in the community that just don't play well with others. They are not interested in collaboration and working together. They have got their model and it works and they're going to go with it. Those people are obviously terrible partners. And if you know that about that kind of organization, steer clear. Unless they have, some fantastic thing that no one else in your entire community can offer, they just are more effort than they're worth. And so knowing that going in can allow you to focus your energies. And then along with that is knowing who are the decision makers and making sure that they are involved in the process, because that's another thing that can slow down the momentum or can inhibit whether or not that partner can deliver on what they say they can deliver. Because if you're working with someone who's on the program staff and they think that this is a fantastic idea, but their executive director wants no part of it, it's not going to happen. And so you want to make sure that you know who those decision makers are and you know what's driving them and make sure that they're committed as well. And then the last thing, which is an interesting point, is know that partner's pain points. Look at the language they use on their websites and look for alignments. Maybe talk to people that you know that are connected with that partner organization, somebody on the inside, and figure out what it is that they're struggling with and what they really need. And so I wanted to share with you an example of one organization where we saw this. And this is actually the homepage of Goldman Sachs in New York in about shortly after the financial crisis. And they were clearly in a place where they needed some good press. Things were not going well, and they needed a positive boost. And so they chose, instead of using their website to promote their services or try to, improve their reputation, they chose to focus on what they were doing in the community. If you were to log on and look at this website, you would have to look really closely to see what Goldman Sachs actually did. You would think that they, were supporting building communities. And that's what they wanted the message to be, because they needed good press. And so this would be the kind of opportunity where you say, this is a great opportunity for us as an organization who is in need of a large, if you're looking for financial support maybe, that you could say, this is a great opportunity for us to move forward knowing their struggles. And so as I dug deeper on their website, and you're reading through their different materials, you can learn a lot about an organization by their missions and by what they promote. And so Goldman Sachs started an initiative to build neighborhoods. They wanted to increase the availability of mixed-income housing and offer more public housing assistance to low-income families. And so as I read that, I said, these are, for many of you all, the families that you work with, safe and secure housing may be a key step in the right direction for them. But you could also talk to a company like this about what else it takes to build a good neighborhood, that it's not just the houses that they live in, but it's ensuring that those families stay together in those homes, or it's that drugs don't break down those communities. So knowing these kinds of things and knowing their focus and what they really need to get out of it can help you tailor that message and really adjust your language and your focus into a way that your partner is going to really understand. But that's not to say that this all has to happen on a grand scale. If you've got a large national corporation in your community that's looking to hand out money, then by all means, go after them. But sometimes it's a much smaller scale kind of thing, and it can have just as much impact. Actually, this is information that I pulled directly from one of the partners in the existing AIA Direct Service Program. This is the website of Cherish the Family in North Lauderdale, Florida. And they have a section on their website where they identify all of their partners. And we're going to talk about why that's a good idea later. But what I wanted to tell you is that one of the partners that they identified was the Children's Trust, an organization that offers a wide array of services to children and families. And so you look on the surface and go, okay, that's a good thing and a good partner. But it goes beyond that, and it goes to why they're an even better partner. So I went to the Children's Trust Fund, or the Children's Trust website, and I looked at their mission and values. And I wanted to get a better picture of where they focus within serving children and their families. And so I looked, in one of their 7 guiding principles and values, you'll see that early intervention and prevention services to vulnerable children, families, and neighborhoods is one of their guiding principles. And that's one that really fits in quite nicely with the rest of the work that Cherish the Family does. And so the key to the focus is really to find where there's that natural fit between your organization and your potential partner. And sometimes it may not come naturally, and that's where sometimes it's even helpful to, go back to 3rd grade and draw a Venn diagram. So we listed it out. You and your partner may not be an exact match in your priorities, but that's okay. That's why you're working in different fields and coming together on a common ground. That's why there's a partnership and collaboration. So in this example, the work that Children's Trust does around strengthening families and substance abuse prevention is good work, and it even can relate to the work that you're already doing. But this is when it's important to refer back to that needs assessment that we showed you earlier in this presentation. Because if you already have a strong partnership with another agency that offers substance abuse prevention, or a great referral system with someone who offers family strengthening classes, that may not be what you want to focus this meeting on with a new partner, because you already have partners to do that. So you want to look at new ways to engage this partnership. So instead you may realize that you're in need of a partner who can help with early interventions for children, and that's where you want to pull together with Children's Trust. And another key to this is that just like I did my research to prepare for this training, Children's Trust could have very easily gone to your website, seen your partners, and begin to wonder why you even need them. And so being able to do this research and make a clear case and a clear connection for them really addresses how the need is going to fit and help both of you. So I want to take a break as we've talked a little bit about doing research and background and see if there are any questions at this point.
Sarah, can you please open the line for questions?
If you would like to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad.
And at this point, we don't have any chat questions directed towards me.
And there are no questions from the phone.
All right. Well, then we will jump into the menu of options, and we'll give another chance for questions a little bit later on. But when we talk about a menu of options, that can be a helpful way to really articulate what your research has shown. And so you want to address your partnership in terms of how your partner can fulfill their vision and mission by supporting your program. And I think that's a really important point, so I want to say it again. How can they fulfill their corporate mission, or their organizational vision and mission by supporting your program? It's not just about how the partnership is going to benefit you, but you want to look at it and approach it from how is it going to benefit them, because that's where they care. They want to support you because you're doing nice things, but they want to be a part of it, and they want to be a long-lasting partner because it supports them as well. And so a menu of options allows for multiple opportunities for engagement. Perhaps you're looking for a potential partner for financial support, but right now their business isn't doing so well. And so you give them other ways to get involved, whether it's in-kind donations or sponsoring a specific event or training. And then as your relationship grows, you can come back and reassess your needs and see how that partnership can change to meet both of your needs. And so as we talk and we dig deeper into what should be on a menu of options, I want to start with what could be on theirs. And this would be something that you would go and sit down with a partner and say, here are some different ways that you could be involved with supporting us. So it could be financially. It could be offering events or opportunities for the families that you work with. It could be incentivizing their employees to participate and to support the work that you do. Or maybe it is in-kind donations. I know we worked with a school partnership where the school needed the computers, and so they identified a partner who was in the technology industry, and they were able to donate some computers because that's what the school needed. It could be cross-branding on the websites, as we saw with Cherish the Family and Children's Trust, so that as people are going and looking for services, that your partner is showing up there and you're showing up on their site. Maybe it's inclusion in their corporate newsletter as they're promoting different events that they identify you as somewhere and an important partner. It could be joint media events. If you're looking for some media recognition or some opportunities to expand your name into the community and they've got a great media outlet, than using that opportunity. Or it could be internships or fellowship programs. Maybe you've got some families that you serve that are looking for job opportunities, and that partner maybe will help prepare them or place them in jobs. So really being able to tailor this, and this is obviously going to be tailored to the type of partner that you're talking to, as well as the type of things that you need from them. But then there's the flip side. There's what you can offer in return. And so that's the key part of the strong relationship, that it's not just what you want from them, but it's also what you have to offer in exchange. And it's this part that really moves you from a surface-level partnership to that strong, long-lasting relationship. So as you talk to the partners, you want to know, do they need quarterly status reports? Are you working and serving the same families? And so maybe they want to know the progress that family has within their organization and within yours. It could be branding, and branding can be on the websites. It could be when you're doing activities and events, and they're supporting or sponsoring it, that you offer to add their brand on to your work. Maybe you're the one with the media connections, and you're are able to offer those to your partner. It could be recognition for their employees as they support and participate with your organization, that you recognize them in some way. Service days or group picnics, things to kind of bring people together. It may be recognition at fundraisers or galas or your big end-of-the-year events that you recognize your partners. And it could be inclusion in your newsletter as you talk about, the partner. We've seen programs who have done kind of a partner of the month or a partner of the year, where they recognize the great work of that partner and really celebrate them. And I'll caution you at the same time to be careful about overcommitting. I wouldn't recommend coming into a meeting and offering all of these things to each partner, but instead have a good idea of what it is that your organization is able to offer, and then spend some time listening to their needs and figure out exactly where those matches are and what of the things you can offer do they really need. And so we take another break for questions. Sarah, do we have any in the chat box?
There are none in the chat box at this time.
Okay. I think, it's coming. There's one coming into me privately, asking, is braiding funds too risky to do with partners? And maybe, Susan, if you wouldn't mind calling and asking that over the phone, and I could get a little bit more clarification. I think you press *1 to call in with that question.
And while we're waiting for that call to come in, there is a question that came in to Ellen.
And this is from Jerry C. When there are organizations in the community that could be viewed in ways as competitors, how do we find a way to bridge to collaborate?
Sure, and I think that's a great question, and I think happens a lot. And that's one of those opportunities where you start to look for places where there are overlap, but places also where there are gaps. So maybe your competitors in some realms, but there's an opportunity somewhere in there. We've seen in the mentoring community, which becomes surprisingly competitive, opportunities, especially as funding sources have become more limited, that meant that there's kind of a necessity to come together and partner, because competing for too much longer is going to mean the demise of one or both programs. And so we've seen opportunities where they have taken, maybe a single event where they're able to come together on a big picture, and it's a one-time partnership, and that's where we talk about it may be something in the menu of options where you say, you know what, we recognize that we are doing the same work, but it's important work. And so we want to come together and raise awareness, not of our individual organizations, but of the work that we're doing. And look for those opportunities of difference. Maybe you're on one side of town and on the other side of town, and so there's some gaps. Or maybe you've got one set of resources and they have the other. And so I think there are opportunities to work with competitors. At the same time, if they've got that culture where they really see it as a competition, then that's going to be a lot of work for you to overcome. And that's one of those times where you have to kind of step back and say, is this a partnership where the benefits outweigh the risks? And the answer to that might be no, and that's okay. One of the things that we have seen is that there is knowing when it's okay to walk away, and that not every person that you encounter has to become a partner. There's one program that referred to it as their blessed release policy, that they would work with people and they would get to know them, and if it just wasn't working and wasn't clicking, they said, you know what, good luck to you, we're going to keep going on over here. And it works, and it takes the stress and the anxiety away from your staff who are trying to manage these difficult partnerships, and it gives you time and energy to devote to partners who may be more open.
And Sarah, has that call come through on the line?
Oh, yes, you have a question from Susan DiFilippo. Your line is open.
Thank you. We have someone else, another participant who has a question.
Okay. I just had a question, and you sort of kind of answered this in your last answer, but if there is a service that you do not provide, nor do some of your partners provide, but you all feel it's necessary, what is it recommended that you get into a partnership whereby I might take some of my grant funds and my two other partners might take some of their grant funds to create a pool of money to provide this service that's non-existent? Or is
I think that makes a great opportunity for a partnership when you have collectively identified a need. So there is that common agreement and that common ground. I mean, obviously, any time that we've got money involved, things get a little bit messier. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible. And I think, and we'll talk a little bit later on about developing an MOU, and that would be a prime opportunity to really lay out in a memorandum of understanding, this is what we're bringing to the table, and here's what we expect. Here's how we expect the funds to be used. Here's how the funds will be allocated. Here's the staffing that each of us commits to put behind it. Here's the oversight that we're going to commit. And so it's one of those things where you want to make sure that if you've got, that all three parties really are on the same level in terms of commitment to the effort, because we've certainly seen partnerships where they all come together and say, yeah, this is really important, and then we turn around and it's one person carrying the weight.
And that's because often people get together and partner with regard to existing resources, but in this case, if it's a non-existent resource, and just looking at, monitoring it and who would be responsible, I didn't know if it's a common thing or it's often more of a headache. The other question I had, which you can answer later on, is, the MOUs are most common, but I have heard also of memorandum of agreement, and I didn't know if there was a difference between MOU and MOA. And what those differences are.
Sure.
Thank you.
And we will talk about that because it's a good point, and it's not a major distinction and difference, but it's enough. And I think that to your point about is it common, this coming together of funding, I think that it's becoming even more common, where we're seeing the pools of resources that programs have becoming less and less, and so the necessity to come together is really driving coalitions, driving collaboration, where everyone says, I've got a little bit, which isn't enough to do everything, but if I put that little bit with your little bit, we actually can get something done. And so I think that makes for really a fantastic opportunity to build in a partnership and get started. Sarah, do we have any other questions on the line?
There are no further questions.
All right. Then we will get into the actual meeting. And the biggest thing that I would tell you about that first meeting with a new partner is that you want to spend 80% of your time listening and 20% talking. This is really an opportunity for you to learn about your partner, and for your partner to learn about it. Learn about you, but learn about you in relation to them. I was working on a site one time, and we were in this meeting, and the other person there talked the entire meeting, just really went on and on about all the things they wanted to do and all of this, and we just kind of sat back and we listened and, asked a few questions here or there, but really this person led the conversation and really walked away. And at the end of it, he got up and he shook my hand. He said, "That was just a fantastic meeting." I said, "Well, of course it was. You talked about everything you wanted to talk about." And so that's the kind of way you want that first meeting to go. You want that partner to walk away going, "This is great. They heard me. They understand me. I really want to spend more time with this partner." And so the listening becomes important. And the listening becomes important not only for that, but also because of what it can tell you and what you can understand. And so as you're listening and you're asking key questions, you want to ask questions to really get to understand their goals and values and interests. It's only then, once you understand where they're coming from, that you'll be able to kind of pitch your program and discuss what you want to get out of it in a way and in a language that they can hear and understand. And it may even be the kind of thing where once you've heard it and once you understand where they're coming from, you draw out, and kind of map out that alignment for them. Draw your own version of the Venn diagram and see how things are going to come together. But it gives you that opportunity to see where you are and understand where they are. And then present the partnership as an opportunity to advance both of your goals. You've clearly listened to them and you've heard what their goals are. You've seen where the alignment is between the two. And now this is your opportunity to show how that partnership will achieve what you're looking to achieve. And then this is the key thing, and the thing that programs tend to forget is that you need to be prepared to prove that your program actually works. Whether that is with statistics or anecdotes or, reports that you've done. You want to be able to show that this partnership is going to be worthwhile because the other efforts that you have done in the past have been worthwhile. And this can, depending on the partner, if they're really into numbers and statistics, then this can kind of be the tipping point. Or it can just show a partner, as you talk to them and you get to understand them, and maybe they want that personal story. They want to hear how it impacted that individual, and you're able to share that and see how those connections come together. And I wanted to share with you a case study that we had, a program that I worked with out in Cincinnati, and they worked a lot with youth and with the school system. And they really identified and they talked about their partners as though they were clients. And so when they would come into a meeting with a new partner and they would sit down and they would spend the meeting talking about that partner's needs. And normally that partner was a school district. And so they would listen as the school would say, we're really in need of some support with education, or we're facing a problem with bullying in our schools that we're not really sure how to answer. And this program listened, and they would say, they would respond when appropriately that we as an organization can support you with this, but they also made referrals. They said, bullying isn't an area that we focus on, but there's another partner in the community, and we'd be happy to connect you with them. So you become this go-to point where the partner not only sees you as an ally, but really as a resource. And again, it's one of those opportunities to deepen that relationship and really strengthen the partnership from the get-go. And we really saw that model and that opportunity and have really latched onto it because people like to feel like they're important. And that goes for your partners as much as it does for you. And so knowing that you can make those connections and really feel like your work is being valued and being heard is crucial. And so now we jump into that MOU. We're assuming that the meeting has gone great and they're excited and they're ready to partner with you. And so now it's time to develop an MOU. And the difference between an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, and a memorandum of agreement really comes down to the financial component. A memorandum of understanding tends to have some kind of financial agreement in it, whereas an MOA usually doesn't. And so it is really just a matter of which one you want to call it. People tend to be more familiar with an MOU, but we've also seen partners that hear it and automatically put that financial connection to it, and it doesn't necessarily have to. It just has a little bit stronger legal weight to it. And so with those partners, we said, well, would you sign a memorandum of understanding, just of agreement, just to say, yes, we agree that we are in this together. And so that's another one of those places where as you listen and you talk to your partner and you hear their concerns, you can kind of adjust that based on them. But regardless of MOU or MOA, there are some things that they have in common. One of those is that it's valuable because it shows a clear commitment. You've got both parties who are sitting down together and saying, here is what we're committed to, and here's why we care about partnering and working together. The other thing it does is it shows and ensures buy-in from the leadership on both sides. The last thing you want to do is to have a meeting with someone on the program staff and not have that progress communicated up the chain of command to the key leadership. And so having an MOU or an MOA gets that buy-in and makes sure that everybody on both sides is clear about what's going on. It also helps to communicate the work to all the parties that should know, so that as you go along, everybody is really on the same page. It also establishes ongoing communication, and this part is crucial to maintaining the partnership. It gives clear guidelines about how often and in what form that communication will take place, and ensures that any issues that may arise during the duration of the partnership can be addressed early and often before they really become significant problems. It also sets expectations. It helps you identify those issues before they escalate into bigger problems that can't be overcome. If you know up front what you're both going to do, it makes it a lot easier down the road to say, this is what we agreed to, this is what we're going to come back to. And finally, the MOU part is that it offers protection. If there is a financial component to your partnership, then it can offer guidance and protection about what happens if one party doesn't adhere to the agreement. So kind of walking through the basic structure, and this is a sample one that we put together, and I would be happy to share it with Amanda and have her send it out to you all if you're interested. But basically, you want to take the first paragraph and really talk about the purpose and the intent. Why are you collaborating? What are you coming together for, and how does it benefit both parties? And then in the second paragraph, we call it the important clause paragraph. It's where you want to identify who the points of contact are for both partnership. You want to establish your communication schedule so that it's clear about when and how that's going to happen. And it can also be helpful to include a media clause. We've seen problems with partnerships where maybe there's one party has access to the media on a regular basis, and they've been known to overuse it or abuse that goodwill. And so having that media restriction just makes sure that if one of your partners is talking about your organization or your partnership, that you're notified beforehand. And so it just kind of gives you a heads up of what's coming down the road. The next section, and I think probably the biggest part, is really the what you're going to do, what they'll do, and what you'll do, and really being able to bullet it out and be really specific about, here are our agreements, here's what we're going to do, here's when we're going to do it, and here's how it's going to work. And then finally, the signatures of the leadership, and this is that final part about making sure that everybody who needs to know what's going on is a part of what's going on. And so two big tips about MOUs. The first is be clear and concise. You notice that we used bullet points. It gets the message across right there and up front what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And the second part is avoid legalese. Unless there's a financial or a heavy risk element associated with the partnership, it just kind of weighs it down. It weighs the process down because people get caught up in defining the legalese and how do we negotiate it. And I would say, if there is that kind of financial component, or if, as Susan, the caller with you, mentioned, if you're bringing together joint funds, maybe that's something that you want to have a lawyer kind of just look over and make sure that everything is on board. But if it's just a basic partnership where you're coming together to do work together, make it as clear and concise and straightforward as possible, and you'll all be much happier. Do we have any questions at this point?
Again, if you would like to ask a question, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad.
And at this point, I don't have any questions in the chat box.
And you have a question from Susan DiFilippo. Your line is open.
Hi,
yes, hi. This is actually Katy Crowley, one of the participants in the room with Susan. I've had on the program level, directors telling me they're not quite sure when to do an MOU, and it sounds from this just, if you feel that they'd be a suitable partner, and you can go through this sort of kind of list. But who should they have at the table in that first initial meeting? Executive directors, the program directors, the agency directors? I mean, is there a sort of kind of a menu of who should attend those initial meetings?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I would say that it would depend on what your goal is to get out of the meeting. If your initial meeting is just to sit and to learn and to listen, then having just, a program director or program staff, the people who are really in the line of work, they would be adequate. But if it's the kind of meeting where you're sitting down and you're fleshing out the kind of things that might go in an MOU, then you're going to want people who have some authority, whether that's the program director or the executive director. You're going to need them in the room because, again, at the end of the day, they have to buy in if they're going to allow their employees to do the work for the partnership. So I would make sure. I would also make sure that they are bought in and they are involved before the MOU shows up on their desk. So somewhere in that process, because you're obviously not going to create an MOU at the first meeting. So somewhere between that initial information gathering meeting and the agreement to partner would be the appropriate time to pull in that executive director or that program director, whoever's going to make that final say, so that they are informed and knowledgeable.
Right. And I know this is going to sound like a strange question, but I've also had the question of once they have done sort of kind of an MOU, is there an entity that could review an MOU that could say, this is pretty solid, you have all the pieces you need, or is it just following some kind of guidelines like, the sample that you showed us?
I would say it depends on what's in it. If it's just an agreement to partner, then kind of there are several samples, and I'd be happy to share one with you of kind of what should go in it. And they really almost work like fill in the blanks. And then as long as you've got both parties who are looking over it and making sure that in terms of the what each party is going to do, and as long as everybody's solid and clear on that part, then you're pretty much good to go. If there are either confidentiality things that you need to include, whether it's working with different clients or if there's a financial part, then I would have someone with a legal background look over it just to make sure that you're covering your bases.
Great. Thank you very much.
You bet. Terry, do we have any other questions on the line?
There are no further questions.
All right. Then we'll move into the real hard work, which is keeping partners engaged. Finding the right people is half the battle, and then the real work comes in when you start actually to get in and things get messy. So there are some tips to kind of keep in mind that can help keep partners engaged and help keep the partnership moving forward and strong. One of them is around regular communication. You want to make sure that there is consistent follow-up. So after that first meeting, that there's follow-up there, that there's follow-up as you go through it to make sure that you're communicating what you said you would do, but also to make sure that your partner is equally as committed and is following through. And one way to do that is with regular meetings. And these don't have to be long, drawn-out meetings. They could be getting together with your partner over lunch and just touching base to make sure that everybody is on the same page and that if there are any issues that need to be discussed, that you have that opportunity to do that. And along with that is ongoing information sharing with partners. And so this could be, part of your agreement could have been that you're going to have quarterly status reports on the progress of the partnership. Or it could be that you're sending an email with the meeting notes from the last meeting. But something that says that it makes sure that everyone is informed and on the same page so that as questions arise, there's something to go back to. So that makes that communication crucial. There's also the importance of being able to be flexible. As your partnership gets put into action, things are going to change and shift from what you expected, and that change is inevitable. Even in the best partnership and with the most thorough MOU that you could write, things are going to change. But how you deal with that change can greatly impact the quality of that partnership. So, being willing to renegotiate the terms of the MOU will help you to meet the needs and demonstrate to your partner that you're really committed to them and to the work. We've seen some MOUs, and I think actually the example that we have has a clause that says that the MOU will be reassessed annually, so that, if at any point before then you need to go back, you certainly can, but at least once a year we're going to take a step back and look and make sure that the agreement and the partnership we have is still meeting the needs that we've identified. And it does. It shows your partner that it's really a partnership, that you're not just here to get something out of them, but you're willing to accommodate their needs as well. And then there's the part about setting and monitoring those goals. And so regular reports doesn't just act as another way to maintain regular communication, but they also ensure that there is transparency and that both parties are on track towards meeting those goals. And those are goals that you're going to develop together. So it's not that the partnership is a kind of partnership of equals, and it's not you as an oversight kind of looking over their shoulder and saying, are you actually doing your work? But it's both of you saying, here's what I said I would do, and here's how that's coming, and here's what you said you would do, and here's how that's going. So that becomes just an extra piece towards building that trust and building that relationship. And the other part is about identifying risks early and being able to mitigate them. One of the challenges can be maintaining multiple points of contact with your partner, because what we've seen happen from time to time is that you get one individual within your partner organization who is just really on board and they're committed to the work and they are gung-ho and are going to do anything for you. And then they move. And all of a sudden, you call that agency and nobody knows who you are, because this person has been working so hard and so dedicated for you, but never really told anybody else in their agency about the work. And so one of the key things to do, and the same could happen on your side, where you may have staff turnover or job responsibilities change. And so you want to make sure that there are opportunities and multiple points of contact, so that you may know not only the program staff, but you know the receptionist, and you have a relationship with the executive director, so that at different levels and at different points you can go to. And obviously all of those contacts aren't going to have the same level of effort on a day-to-day basis, but it is at least a relationship that you have made and a contact that you have, so that partnership can continue even if someone moves or changes. And the other one is, if you overcommit, own up to it. Overcommitting is not the end of the world, but not following through on your agreements could be. We had a partner, and it was one of these great programs, and they were passionate about the work that they did, and they had this fantastic development team, and they were going out and they were building these amazing partnerships. And they had this one woman on staff, and she would get so passionate and so excited that she would get caught up in the brainstorming and all of the opportunities of things they could do, and she would just start talking and going and going. And she came back to the office and looked at her notes and realized all the things they had talked about. She said, there is no way that we can do everything that we just told this partner we could do. And she got overwhelmed, and she's like, they're going to be so mad at us, and this is, it's not going to go well. And so she, kind of avoided that partner, didn't answer their call for a day or two, was hesitant, until finally she gave in, and we said, you've got to talk to them. You have to own up to it. And so she was able to go back and say, you know what, we have a lot of great ideas, and there are lots of opportunities for us. But at this point in time, here's what's manageable. And that these other ideas, we can come to, but they may not happen until a little farther down the road. And it was that opportunity of her being able to own up to that overcommitment and kind of scale back to what was manageable. The partner said, that's fine. We're in this with you for the long haul. And so if this is what we work on now and that's what we work on later, we're good. But it was important for her to make that commitment and to be clear about what it was they were able to accomplish. And since then, they have been able to kind of go back, and as they've reassessed their MOU and as they've looked back at the partnership and what they can do, they've said, you know what, we had this goal and we've more or less accomplished it. Let's look at other things that we can do together, and it's a partnership that has really grown and flourished because of it. And so the final thing to talk about, and the part that everybody needs and loves, is recognition. Keeping partners strong isn't just about making sure that the work happens. It's also about taking that time to recognize your partner's contributions and about thanking them properly. And different partners respond to gratitude and recognition in different ways. And, you know, as you're probably certain, if you looked around the people in the room with you, that each of you has a different way that you like to be recognized. And as you work with your partner and you get to know them better, you'll be able to kind of figure out what's the best way to show your appreciation towards them. You know, it could be an event. You know, maybe you recognize them at a big event that you have, and recognize them as Partner of the Year, or thank them for their contribution or their hours of service, or what that may be. It could be, you know, awards. And these could be, you know, actual, you know, trophy awards or plaques that you hang up, or, you know, it could be a simple paper certificate that says, thank you for your commitment to this work, and we appreciate what you've done. You know, maybe a newsletter feature in your newsletter recognizing what they've done, an article on your website, you know, a media release, you know, even as something as simple as sending them a card that just says thank you. You know, and these are the kind of things that you should do at least on an annual basis as you go back and reflect on the work that you've done together and its impact. But regular recognition and appreciation goes a long way. Even if it's a simple, you know, email after a really stressful meeting to say, I know this is hard work and I appreciate that you've been a part of it. It goes a long way, and it makes the work that you do worthwhile, and it lets them know that you recognize what it means. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time here at the end to hear from you. What are other ways that you've worked to keep partners engaged? You know, we've talked about some, but there are certainly a few more. So if you have any, we would love to hear them.
So Sarah, again, we're going to open the line for comments.
Again, if you have a question or comment, please press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad.
And I have no chat comments at this time, but that's always an option too. You can chat your comments in as well about ways that you've seen that have worked to keep partners engaged.
And this is Katy. I've seen some partnerships where the kind of culture of the group and the members that were meeting, they were big foodies. They really liked to go out and have a nice dinner, and so that's how they would get together. And they said, you know, we don't need, you know, meetings at another boardroom table. We do that all day long. And so they would get together, and it became a more informal setting, which really facilitated that development of relationships. That it wasn't just a business agreement that we are here to make sure that we're following the rules, but it really was a relationship, and so that they could talk and get to know each other on a personal level, as well as getting to address the work and what they were doing. And I think we've all seen situations where it's a lot harder to get somebody mad at somebody or frustrated with somebody or disengaged from somebody that you have a relationship with. You know, the person who calls you once a month, it's easy not to answer that call. But the person that you have dinner with on a regular basis, that's a little bit harder to avoid. So, you know, taking those opportunities to really build a relationship, I think, is the overarching crucial thing that I would say about maintaining strong partners.
And if there are no questions on the line, I think we should just move forward.
You got it. So the last thing we want to do is we've got one final poll for you that we wanted to get some feedback about any interest that you may have in participating in additional partnership building discussions. One of the things that we've learned, we end up doing a lot of trainings with my organization, and we found that a training is a good way to kind of get the information out there, but that it takes more follow-up to really dig in deeper and figure out how to apply that information on a one-on-one basis. So if you have any interest in either talking further about individual partnerships or programs or work that your program is doing, we are certainly more than happy to talk with you about that, as well as if you're interested in talking with other programs who have also been on the call and hearing what they've done to build partnerships and kind of sharing ideas between each other. We're also happy to facilitate those discussions. So if you just vote yes or no if you're interested in participating, then Amanda will follow back up with you, and we can make some of those opportunities happen.
I'm also wondering, while we wait for this poll question here, if Sarah, if you can actually just unmute all of the lines so people don't need to call in, we can just have a little conversation since we have some time here at the end.
And all lines are now open.
And can you tell participants how to mute their line if they choose to do that, in case there's a lot of background noise?
If you would like to mute your line, you may do so by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. And if you wish to speak, please press *6 again to unmute your line.
So here at the end, I'd just like to open it up to any questions that people might have for Katy.
This is Kathy again. I don't necessarily have a question, but wanted to add to the discussion. One of the things that we've done with our grantees in trying to continue to help them engage with their partners in developing sort of kind of their report that they bring to their local legislator. On the main cover, we've suggested that they highlight some of their partner agencies and sort of kind of present it as a community approach. And that has gotten a lot of great feedback from the legislators and as well as the partners, because it sort of kind of gives some I don't know what you would call it, I'm looking at my colleague, I don't know. But I mean, that seems to have gotten a lot of good feedback, so I thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think what we've seen, and I'm sure that you've seen it as well, in funding trends, is that funders are really looking more towards community interventions. And so being able to say that the work that you're doing and the funds that they're giving aren't just going to your program, but they're really going to support those partnerships. And I think you're absolutely right. Being able to highlight those right off the bat has a huge impact and an added benefit. That's a great one.
And Katy, it does look like about 60% of our participants are interested in participating in some kind of follow-up. So what I'm going to do is I'll send an email out today to those of you who are on the call, just asking what would be ideal for you. So you can expect that email from me.
Perfect, thanks. And we can certainly, based on your feedback and what's helpful, kind of tailor those opportunities if they are small group discussions or one-on-one, or if it's sharing resources. We're certainly more than happy to share from what we've learned.
Great. Any other questions or comments here before we close up? All right. Well, thank you, Katy, for sharing your time and such a wealth of information. And I'd like to thank all of you who listened in today for joining us. If you have any colleagues that would like to listen to this call, an audio recording and the slides will be available on our website, aia.berkeley.edu, within the next 2 weeks, so you can check back there. Also, as with all of our webinars, we'd love to get your feedback on how we did and how you experienced the webinar. So you'll see this link. If you could go there and fill out the survey, that'll go right back to us, and we will be able to be consistently improving. And also, if you're listening to this webinar with other people in the room, we'd love for each person to be able to fill it out, not just have one representative. So if you could share that link with others, that would be great. With that, thank you again to Katy and to you. We hope that you found it to be a valuable experience. And as a reminder, it isn't too late for the rest of the 2012 series. The next webinar, Methods for Increasing Medication Adherence with HIV-Positive Parents, is scheduled March 7th at 10 a.m. And again, you can visit our website, aia.berkeley.edu, for more details. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
And this concludes today's conference call. You may now disconnect.